How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm joined by Nico, who's a medical student at Hackensack Meridian School of Medicine, and he's going to answer some questions for us because he's a medical student and he's going through a lot of things that we're hoping to go through one day. So it's really awesome to have the chance to ask him some questions. So, Nico, what's going on, man?
Hey, how are you? Thanks for having me on your channel.
Of course, dude. Thanks for joining us. So let us know about your background and like how medical school is and everything.
Yeah, of course. My name is Nico, as you mentioned. I'm actually from Uruguay, and I came to the States like as a baby. So I applied to med school as a URM, so a underrepresented like medical student. And I went to a big state university. I majored in bio and Spanish, and then I stayed in state. So I stayed in New Jersey for medical school, and I'm actually part of the inaugural class of my school. So I'm like the first class of Hackensack Meridian.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, what year are you in right now? Or can you? I know you mentioned you're doing your clinical rotations, but you said you're not quite a third year. What exactly is that?
Yeah, so my school basically is a 3-year curriculum. So everyone in the school finishes the curriculum, like the medical part, in 3 years. And then in the fourth year, you can either start rotations in our network. So you stay in New Jersey for your residency, or in your fourth year, you can take electives, you can do like away rotations, and then you can apply through the normal match to any residency in the US. So I'm in my second year, but I already finished preclinical. So my preclinical part of med school was a year and a half, and then we start clinical halfway through the second year. So that's why I'm a second year student, but in like I guess you could call us like doing what an M3 would normally do.
Gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, I've never heard of that. That's so cool. So how was your first year of medical school like when you just went from undergrad into med school? What was that like?
So being part of the inaugural class, I would say that it was definitely challenging just because there was no like upperclassmen to ask questions to. We kind of just went in and we're like the guinea pigs, like from the very beginning, from the very first course. So being the fact that we're a 3-year program, so everything's already accelerated, and then we didn't really have a lot of resources to get help from, I would say the first year was definitely challenging, but I still don't regret it. I think there's a lot of like benefits to being part of the inaugural class. There's a lot of cool things and opportunities that we had the chance to do. But first year was definitely challenging, just getting used to like the speed, the amount of like information you had to learn, and then on top of that, not really having support from I guess like classmen, like other medical students above you.
Yeah, yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. That's probably super difficult being in the inaugural class. What was the hardest part about first year?
I would say the hardest part about first year was, I guess, the change and finding out how I was going to study. Because in undergrad, I felt like I had my method. Like I knew how to study. I knew how to do really well in all my exams. Like I went to a big state school, so like it wasn't easy, but like I knew my methods, and those methods definitely were not working in med school. So finding out like how to study, how I was going to approach all the information that was being thrown at you. Like they always say, it's like drinking water from a fire hydrant or
Yeah.
something like that. And I thought that was like I didn't think that would actually be like that, but I think it was. And like kind of getting used to the pace and how I was going to study and like what is Anki and like all of these things that I never used. I guess that was definitely the hardest part for me.
Yeah. Was there anything that was easier than you thought it was gonna be?
I don't know. I just feel like my school, like they let us like work with patients like from the very beginning. So like from the first year, we were able to like interact with patients, and I thought that was like a lot of fun. And I don't think that was like challenging for me. I thought that was actually like easier than I was expecting.
Awesome. That's pretty cool. So speaking about seeing patients, what is it like now going from your didactic studies into your clinical rotations? Are you loving it more? Are you like enjoying it a lot? What is that like?
So I'm definitely enjoying it a lot more than like the preclinical, because preclinical, like I said, like some schools let you work with patients from the beginning, but it's nothing like working 50 to 60 hours a week with patients in a hospital and like having that type of responsibility. Um, I would say for me, like being in the now in like the clinical part of med school, it's a lot. I mean, like we're working like 40, like I said, 50 to 60 hours, waking up at like super early to get to the hospital on time, to round on your patients. And then after getting home, like you still have to study for your exams that you're gonna have to take. So definitely challenging, but definitely like more rewarding than the first part of medical school.
Yeah. Do you have any specialties that are kind of like sticking out to you right now?
Yeah, so like I came in saying that I was gonna do pediatrics, and I just finished my peds rotation, and I'm pretty sure I'm gonna do peds. I
Awesome.
really like working with kids. I think it's like a lot more fun than working with adults.
Yeah.
Um, but I want to do international medicine, and I want to do like medical relief abroad. And for that, like I know EM might be like a little bit better, so I might do
Yeah.
emergency. I'm stuck between peds and EM, but most likely I want to do peds.
Oh, that's awesome, dude. That's so awesome. So, what is something about medical school that you weren't expecting when you were going in?
Something I wasn't expecting. I think I wasn't expecting, like I was saying before, like the amount of information that you had to learn.
Yeah.
And like I thought that I could just study the way I have been studying because everyone said like, oh, just stick to your do what you know works for you. And I tried that in the beginning and there was just like way too much information. And I wasn't expecting like in undergrad you could just kind of study the slides that your professor would give you
Yeah.
or you could just like look at the syllabus and just study like the chapters that were assigned. But in med school, I wasn't expecting there to be like so many resources and you're not sure like if should you use pathoma, should you focus on board, should you focus on class material, and then
Yeah.
each class being different from each other. So that's something I definitely wasn't expecting.
Yeah. So then what resources or what study changes helped you kind of go from your undergrad methods into medical school that worked out or at least made it better for you?
So in undergrad, I was doing like I would just read the chapter and like I would write my own study guides, and then I would reread those study guides again and again. But in med school, I just found out there's just like way too much information. If I have any advice for like because I didn't have anyone to ask for help, like anyone who had already taken our courses, given that we're part of the first class, I would say, and a piece of advice would be to ask students who already took the block that you're in for
Yeah.
advice and do what they say. But what I started using was Anki, which I was really hesitant to using. Like I didn't use it for MCAT. I was like completely against Anki for some reason. But now like I love it. I think it's the best way to like retain information. Basically what I started doing was from the very beginning, I would do all boards and beyond, add all my cards into my deck, and then supplement with class material. And like I found that was so much more effective than reading like the long pre-works that they were assigning and writing out like my own outlines.
Yeah. How much time do you think, especially during your didactic years, were you studying per day? Like, what was like a typical day in the life of a med student?
So when picking your school, like make sure you like find out if they have mandatory attendance. So our school, because we're new, we had to be in the classroom.
Oh,
So we had to be there from 8 to 12, like yes or yes. So that definitely took up a lot, like a big chunk of my day. And if I could like go to a school that didn't have mandatory attendance, I would much prefer that. But a typical day for me, I would get up, get to class by 8, be in the classroom from 8 to 12, get home, take a break, maybe like go to the gym or work out, go for a run, eat, and then I would study until I guess 8, 9, and then kind of just that would be my day, and that's kind of how it was for the whole like first year. Um, but yeah, definitely just a lot of studying.
okay. And what's a day like now? Now that you're doing rotations, what does a typical day look like? Or at least maybe on your recent rotation?
Yeah, so for peds, each rotation is different in terms of like how many hours you have to do and like which site you're in inside of that rotation. So when in peds, you do inpatient, outpatient, emergency room, like pediatric emergency room. But for the most part, I was getting up around 5:30, getting to the hospital by 7, like doing handoffs. So like finding out about the patients, what happened overnight by 7 a.m. and then working from 7 to 5, 6, or 7 p.m. depending the day, and then getting home, it was like an hour commute because like there's a lot of traffic close to where I live. So basically working from 7 to 7 and then trying to get some work in because you still have to study for the shelf exams and just doing that basically Monday through Friday.
Yeah. But you're liking
So
that better now. You're liking
I'm
that.
definitely like so much more work, but I do like it a lot more than just like sitting there in these classes and like watching boards all day.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, that's exciting. I feel like that's the point that we're all, all of us pre-meds or like can't wait to get to one day is just the
Yeah.
rotations. Like the actual feeling of getting to be like a student doctor, like, not with your head in the book, but like right in front of the patient. I think that's what we all get excited about.
And you'd be surprised, like a lot of patients really do like they'll open up to you because sometimes I'm like, I'm just a student, but they'll tell me like personal information. information that they normally wouldn't even tell like their parents because I was just in peds.
Yeah.
But they wouldn't even tell their friends, but they would tell me because I'm the student doctor. So I like it's cool seeing like that change and like how people will open up to you just because you have that white coat on.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's so exciting. I can't wait for that. So with all the the recent events, the recent news, think we both know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
How is your school adapting and kind of making making your guys' lives maybe easier, especially with all the global stuff going on right now?
Yeah, so basically I'm from New Jersey and we had the first cases in my hospital. So they had us there for 2 weeks. And I think our school was just kind of saying that we're essential team members, like we have to be there to help. But
Oh,
the way everything like escalated so quickly, they pulled us out and we found out I think yesterday actually that we're not going back until June 22nd. So
wow.
I'm kind of just back home. It's kind of harder for us being in the clinical part of medical school because you can't really do that online. So the first year students, I know they're just getting Zoom lectures and they're just going to be able to continue their curriculum as normal. But for us, we're doing online electives that are going to count as fourth year courses. And then we're still getting credit for those. So we're kind of like going out of sequence. So we finished the first part of med school. I guess we're skipping the clinical. We're doing the online electives at home, and then we'll go back to the clinical setting. And apparently, we're finishing on time. So we'll see
Okay.
how
Yeah.
we'll see how that works out.
Yeah, I feel like everything right now in the world is kind of like week to week. So I hope that works out. I hope it doesn't affect, your timeline in medical school. Absolutely. Okay, so my last question for you is what advice do you have for incoming medical students or even pre-med students? Like what things do you wish someone had told you as you were going into medical school?
Alright, so I would say, like, I have a few things I want to say, but like one of
Okay.
the things, just remember that like you've worked so hard to get into medical school. So once you're in med school, once you're at the like final stage before becoming a doctor, try not to stress too much because I know a lot of people don't enjoy medical school because they get so like bogged down in like all the information they have to learn. But it's just part of the process, but like just remembering that like you work so hard to get there, and if you just appreciate the fact that there's students who weren't even accepted, who are retaking their MCATs, who are applying multiple times and not getting in, like just having that positive mindset and just being grateful that you're in med school, I think is like a really good thing to like have in your mind as you go through the process.
Yeah.
Um, and then also something I wish I knew when, well, so I only applied to my medical school because it's like the way the application cycle worked at the moment. But something, if I had different schools to look at, I would definitely look at how does the school grade you in your third year. That's even a question you can ask in like interviews, like how are you going to be evaluated on clinical rotations? There's schools that take shelf exams, which are just these like standardized exams that you take after a rotation. So I did 6 weeks in peds and then I took a peds exam. Some medical schools don't take those exams, and like your grade is based on like evaluations that you get throughout the clerkship. There's some schools that put a lot of emphasis on those exams, so like just depending on like how you want to be graded is something that you could look into. And I had no idea that that even was a thing when choosing the school.
Gotcha. I didn't know that was a thing either. I always knew that there was shelf exams. I didn't know there was an option to not have shelf exams.
There's an option to not have shelf exams. There's some schools that do all of their rotations, and at the very end, they do all their shelves at once.
Oh,
There's schools that do their shelves before to prepare for the rotation. There's so many different things that like I didn't know about. So looking into that and looking at the sequence of when you're going to take steps. So I actually didn't take the step one yet. So my
oh,
school, yeah. So our school does preclinical, clinical, then step one because they think that by doing clinical, it's going to help you be prepared for step. And there's like studies saying that students do either just as well or better by taking it after rotation. So,
yeah,
but if you're a type of person that you want to do your preclinical and just get it out of the way,
yeah,
then don't go to a school like that waits to the very end.
yeah. Gotcha. No, that's some awesome advice. That is awesome. I think that's all the questions I've got for you today. Thank you so much for answering them. That was really, really
Yeah, of
awesome.
course.
Yeah. And
Of
if
course.
anyone watching this has any questions for Nico, definitely comment below. Maybe he can answer some in the comment section, or just go check out his channel. I'm gonna have a link in the description, like right at the top. Definitely go check him out. He posts some awesome videos, giving you a lot of insight into what his med student experience is like. Because if you're watching my video, I'm not even starting med school for another couple months, but Nico's like in it, like he's in the thick of it. So go check out his channel, like, you know, show him some love. It's really awesome that he's showing us what his experiences are like while he's in it, and I'm sure it's gonna be really helpful for especially me, you know, being behind you. I'm gonna watch a lot of your videos and hopefully learn a lot, which is really exciting.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Like he said, like just check out my channel, comment below on this video. I'll be like looking at the comments. I'll answer if you have any questions. Like I'm here.
Awesome. All right, with that being said, thank you guys for watching. I will see you guys next time.